Today is Friday, September 26, 2025. We're here today as part of the Great Neck Library Oral History Project. Today we are meeting with Grant Toch. Welcome, Grant.
Hi, thanks for having me.
Thank you. So tell me a little bit about what brought you to Great Neck and when you came and what brought you here.
So my wife and I, along with our oldest daughter, moved here in 2006. We moved here from New York City. At the time, we were just growing out of our apartment space and we needed a place to live that was going to provide us more room. We wanted to have a larger family. We chose Great Neck for a few reasons. First, my wife has a brother who lives here in Great Neck. Great Neck was also not far from where my parents lived at the time, so it was centrally located to our most immediate family. In addition, the commute to New York City, I work in New York City. The commute to New York City is very easy here. The commute was very easy. The school district is terrific. The park system is fantastic. And I just had good memories of this town even from when I was growing up. I had grown up in Woodbury on Long Island myself.
Very good. What is it that you do for work?
I'm an investor. I work for a hedge fund as an analyst. My specialty is I invest in financial service companies and sovereign governments.
Very good. Tell me a little bit more about things that you do with your family, the things that your family's involved with in the village or in the neighborhood on the peninsula.
Sure. So I like to say my wife and I compete for the most volunteer hours. My wife and I live in Great Neck Estates, I should say. Great Neck Estates has a day camp in the park. So my wife for 10 years ran the day camp in the Great Neck Estates Park. And when our kids graduated from that camp, she left running the camp, and then 2 years ago became the Parks Commissioner for Great Neck Estates. In addition, she has been a basketball coach. Great Neck has a CYO basketball program, so she was the coach for my middle daughter's team and my youngest daughter's team. Myself, I've been involved in many activities. I started out on the UPTC, United Parent Teacher Committee. I started back in 2009. And I ran for the Board of Education successfully in 2021. So I've been involved in the school district. Here we are in 2025. I've been involved since 2009. But I've been on the Board of Education now for 5 years, and this is my second year as the current president. In addition, I have been a parent manager for the Great Neck Soccer Club for a team. I carry all the scorebooks and bags for my wife for her games. And so we've just been involved in very many projects. I'm on the board of Temple Bethel. So I've been involved in many things, my wife is as well. We consider it to be almost a labor of love. We enjoy doing it. We enjoy giving back to the community that we feel so strongly and passionately about.
Tell me a little bit more about, backtrack a little bit, UPTC, how you got involved with that, why you jumped in on that.
Sure. I'm in finance, and back in 2008, 2009, when my oldest daughter was in pre-K, a friend of mine mentioned to me that there was an entity, the UPTC, and they were looking for someone to work with another gentleman on the budget committee. So they introduced me to this gentleman, and he and I worked together on the UPTC budget committee until he graduated out of the school district around 2012, 2013, and I carried on. My children still are in the school district to this day. I carried on through the UPTC until I joined the Board of Education. So it was really just a good marriage of opportunity and skill set and a desire to be involved and help the school district get where it needed to go.
For those people who don't know what that is, what is UPTC? What
Sure.
is the mission and
So each school building has a PTO. And those PTOs are parent-teacher organizations, and those parent-teacher organizations at each school building roll up into almost a holding company, which is called the UPTC. So it is the entity that organizes all the PTOs, and that entity, that the UPTC, is organized really to take all the information that's gathered from the building PTOs and communicate those interests, those desires, those needs, those wants to the administration, including the Board of Education. So when I was on the UPTC, I not only was the head of the budget committee, but I even served on the executive board. So the executive board sits atop the UPTC, and are the main messengers for all the information that comes.
Very good. And talk a little bit about being on the Board of Education, how you got introduced to that, and why you continue.
Sure. Being on the UPTC Budget Committee, my friend and I, we continuously interacted with the Board of Education members throughout our time on that. I got to know the members, I got to know the school budget backwards and forwards. I got to know all the people involved in the administration. And quite frankly, actually, I ran in 2016 very briefly just to get my name out, and in 2017 also very briefly to get my name out. But what happened in 2021 was a gentleman named Don Ashkenaz passed away. He was a sitting trustee, and Don was really the one person on the Board of Education at that moment who had any substantive financial experience. And that being my professional experience, coupled with the fact that I knew the budget backwards and forwards, and I knew all the players, or all the people involved, it seemed like through that tragic event or that tragic passing, it seemed like the natural moment for me to run for the Board of Education, where I could actually fill that need that existed on the Board of Education.
What are some of the things, the highlights since you've been on the board that you can mention?
Sure. The last 4 or 5 years has been one of great change actually in the school district. We have a new superintendent that started with us. This is currently his 3rd year. So my colleagues and I were involved in the search for the superintendent who now sits.
What's his name?
Dr. Ken Bossert. In addition, the year before Dr. Bossert arrived, we needed a new assistant superintendent for business affairs, which essentially is the chief financial officer for the school district. So I was involved in searching for him as well. His name is John O'Keefe. In addition, we've had our assistant superintendent for elementary education retired 3 years ago. So we had to find a replacement for her. We also had a retirement for our assistant superintendent for secondary education just last year, and we had to replace him as well. So almost the entire top level administrative team has been replaced in the 4 years that I've been on the Board of Education. In addition, both of our high schools this year have brand new principals. We have 2 middle schools. One has a principal that's only 2 years old. So it has been a period of great change at the administrative level in our school district, and I would say the people that we've brought in are just excellent. And as I like to say about our superintendent and our assistant superintendent for business affairs, who's also been promoted recently, he not only has that title, but he's the deputy superintendent for the school district. Those 2 gentlemen could run any business. They just happen to run schools in general, and thankfully our schools in particular.
Yeah, you guys have been pretty busy.
Well, the 2 of them, along with the other hires, have made this a much easier position. As I said, they could run any business. They just happen to run our schools, and we're very, very fortunate for that. They truly are. They are articulate. They have a vision. They are leaders. They want to step in when there's an issue. So I consider myself very fortunate. I think the whole board, although I can't speak for them, I think we all feel very fortunate that they sit and run the schools. In addition, we have been investing substantially in what are now known as STEM related subjects. We continue to invest heavily in those areas. We continue to invest heavily in social emotional well-being of our students, because our district is not just about the actual education, but about the social and emotional development of our students. In addition, we continue to invest heavily in our facilities. Just this past spring, our community approved a new turf facility at the North Middle School track field. That facility should get approval in the spring of 2026. Construction should happen in the spring to summer of 2026, and by next fall, or this fall of 2026, people will be playing on a field that has not just turf field, but it'll have lights for the first time, a concession stand. It'll start to feel like a real sporting event when people from the community go there. And we are hopeful that next spring the voters will approve. It's likely that we will bring forth another proposition for the voters to approve the building of a similar facility at the South High School.
That's great.
But it's not just the athletic facilities. We've this past year new kitchen facilities for our classes, new auditoriums, new science labs. We have a continuous schedule that we are always looking at and updating every year on a regular basis. So it's a continuous investment in our students, whether it's the curriculum itself, or the facilities, or the people.
That was a similar question that I had. Like, why do you think Great Neck has been on top for decades? And it probably attributed to almost everything that you've mentioned here.
Well, I would say the one thing that I have not yet mentioned would be the families themselves. I think Great Neck is a community that values education, and they place a great responsibility on the shoulders of my colleagues and the administration to provide the offerings that they desire and that they, I would say, deserve in order to keep our education at the forefront of public education. So I would say we're constantly pushing each other, the families, the Board of Education, the administration. We're constantly pushing ourselves. Our new superintendent, he has a saying, the race for excellence has no finish line. And while our schools are well ranked, highly ranked, both in New York State and across the country, I think the idea is that we're never as great as we can be, that there are always areas for improvement. And I think that the new superintendent, with that message, the whole community has taken that upon themselves, and there's just a constant push to invest. And again, not just in the facilities and the offerings, but the social emotional wellness of our students as well.
Talk a little bit about your temple goers, your relationship with the temple, and how that plays into why people are attracted to Great Neck.
Sure. So my family and I, we belong to Temple Bethel. I've been on the board for 6 years at this point, and not surprisingly, where I've found my home is on the financial side of the synagogue, just like with the school district. But I think more broadly for Great Neck, it's the home of very many different religions and ethnicities. One of the things I think that makes Great Neck great is just that diversity. You can see, one of the things I love looking outside my house every Saturday morning is I can just see the families walking to synagogue, and how privileged it is to live in a neighborhood where you can do that freely and safely. It's been one of my big thrills with my daughters, my wife, and but Great Neck is more than about Judaism, and that's one of the things that makes Great Neck great. But yes, so I've been involved in the synagogue from a leadership perspective for about 6 years. And again, it just comes from trying to help organizations and people get where they need to go using whatever it is I have that can help.
Yeah. Who's the rabbi there currently?
The new rabbi is Brian Stoller. This is his 3rd year.
Okay. Do you know his background, where he came from?
Sure, he came from Omaha, Nebraska,
Wow.
actually.
Wow.
So he replaced, prior to him, we had a husband and wife team, Tara and Mayor Feldman, and they moved, I'll say it was about 3 years ago, to Israel. So there was a search. I was not part of it, but there was a search, and Brian Stoller from Omaha, Nebraska.
Very good. Tell me a little bit about your weekly schedule. I know you're very involved in the sports with the kids. What about business, favorite places to dine, stores to frequent in Great Neck?
Sure. So the normal cadence of my life during the week is I work in the city. I work from home 1 day a week on Fridays. I take the train at 7:30 in the morning. I'm in my office by about 10 after 8. The commute is really easy. And then I come home in the evenings, typically between 5, 6 o'clock, somewhere in that neighborhood. But if my daughters, I have 3 daughters, and they all have played. I have a daughter who's in college, and I have 2 that are still in high school. The 2 that remain in school, and even my daughter graduated, are always involved in school sports. So inevitably, every season, it is a big rush for me to get home so that I can get to the games. In the post-COVID era, it's been made much easier because I've made a little home office during COVID, and so now I'm able to leave work earlier to go home to watch those games, and then I'm able to just retreat into my basement essentially afterwards and finish up my work. And so I've made particularly post-COVID, I really made an effort to get to every single game that I could possibly get to, home and away. So it's been a real thrill for me. as my daughters age out of the school district, eventually it's going to leave a big hole in my life. I don't know what I'm going to do when I grow up, but it's a big part. And through those experiences, I always tell people I feel like I have 3 generations of daughters around the town because I know so many of the people who, they're teammates, and so they and their families, are extensions of my own family. So that's been a really big part for me. I would say as part of the Board of Education, in addition, I purposely make it a point of fact to go to different events, even that my daughters are not participating in. Quite frankly, my daughters want to go to them anyway. So we'll go to the different shows in the high schools. Great Neck is very fortunate. We have a terrific performing arts program. It encompasses everything from operas to shows to comedy acts to improvs. So one of the advantages of being on the Board of Education is that it's really easy. You have really easy access to go. It doesn't look strange if you show up and you don't have a child in these shows, and my daughters want to go anyway. So it's really been it's one of the benefits of the position. Favorite places to eat. My children, they love Daruma. So we've been a Daruma family since 2006, since we moved here. That is their go-to place. I would say in the last 10 years, maybe 10 years, Lola's is another place my wife and I like to frequent. And then there's Rothschild's. So those are the places that we typically frequent. There had been lots of ice cream places here at one point, so we had the pick of the litter. We could go to different ice cream places, not so much anymore.
There were 3 or 4.
There were
right?
3 or 4, like right next to each
Walking
other.
distance,
Yes.
yeah.
Now there's only one, Haagen-Dazs, so we go to Haagen-Dazs. So those sorts of things. We're always in the parks. As I mentioned, my wife is the Parks Commissioner for Great Neck Estates, but the parks are so beautiful here. Great Neck Estates, it is a real privilege to even just be able to use that park. So the parks play a big piece of it. My daughters are even lifeguards at the pools there at this point. Those are just like the bedrock places for us to be.
Talk a little bit about being involved with the local soccer team.
Oh, sure. So there's an entity here called the Great Neck Soccer Club, run by Justin Mays. My oldest daughter and my middle daughter in particular played travel soccer through Great Neck Soccer Club. So starting in 2nd grade, there were travel teams. For my oldest daughter, I was not a parent manager because I didn't even know about it. There were parents who organized that team. But when my middle daughter started to age through, my friend Justin, who's the president of the Great Neck Soccer Club, he has a daughter the same age, and he and I managed a team from, let's say, 2nd grade through 9th grade. And it was just, he and I still talk to this day, and we miss it. It's just being around the families and the players and the coaches. Even the highlight of the whole thing was when they were in 8th grade, we took the whole team down to Disney World to play in a tournament down there. It was 3 games. And
What year was that?
Oh, so that would have been 2020, 4 years ago, so 2021. And it was just such a thrill to go with all the families and all the players and all the coaches. And it really just gives you perspective, like at the different graduation ceremonies. As the president of the Board of Education, which I am currently, this past spring and this coming spring, I was able to hand out the diplomas to the North High School graduates. And so many of the people I knew just from those soccer teams. And, it's a humbling experience to see people that you knew when they were 8 years old walk across the stage 10 years later at 18 as an adult, and think you played an extremely small part in helping them get to that stage. Yeah.
Any significant wins or championship titles or anything that the soccer team?
My middle daughter's team made it all the way to the Premier Division. They played their last, I think it was 2 years in the Premier Division. They were an excellent team, and just to look forward to the games every weekend. And I'm already in my mind's eye calculating how many years it would be, live and be well, if my oldest daughter had a child. She would kill me if I'm saying this. To when I can reemerge onto the soccer field, at least as a spectator.
That's great. That's great. Any closing thoughts or things that you want to share, history-wise, or things that you're involved with?
I would just say it's been a privilege living here. I'm not sure what I expected when we moved here in 2006, but it's wildly exceeded my expectations. The people we've met are terrific. The schools are fantastic. The commute's great, and the experiences, the friendships. It's just I couldn't ask for anything better. And I think looking back, my wife and I undoubtedly made the right choice.
That's great. Thanks for visiting.
Thank you for having me.
All right.